Good afternoon, dear listeners. Welcome to yet another session here as part of the Just Transition platform meeting, the Core Regions in Transition Virtual Week. Today focusing on district heating, keeping regions sustainably warm. We have prepared a session that is putting heating and cooling in focus deliberately because it accounts for half of the energy demand in Europe. And about 66 is still fossil-based, and their fuel reliance in coal region is quite elevated. At the same time, coal regions have often established district heating systems, like we heard today in Western Macedonia and Slovakia, for instance, which represent an opportunity for a systematic switch to sustainable forms of heat supply based on renewable energy and access heat sources. This session will look into different transitional pathways for decarbonizing thermal systems and how best to organize them locally. And with that, I would like to provide you with some further input in terms of slides outlining a bit, recapping the current policy picture. Next slide, please. By saying that, referring to the recent developments of EU policy and the decarbonization of our energy system, you know that 75% of our total emissions come from energy. So the sector, that is clear, but looking at heating and cooling with the importance and now the new outline of the Fit for 55, at least 55% by 2030 requirement to reduce our greenhouse gases here, renewable energy as well as energy efficiency measures will be extremely important. And for the heating and cooling sector in particular, even more so, the second renewable energy directive had an indicative target. Now we are one step further, now calling for an annual binding increase of 1.1% of renewables in the heating and cooling sector at a national level. So here also a challenge brought to you. And if we look at the next picture, the next slide, we can see that actually the EU by itself has so far 22% renewable energy within its heating and cooling mix. And we have some countries front-running with Sweden, Latvia and Finland on the upper end with 66% renewables here, and at the lower end up to 6%, 7%, 8%. So there is a need for focusing on this, on the sector in particular. Next slide. And there is still a lot of, nevertheless, a lot of capacity building ongoing, which I would like to briefly point out to you here, to explore the Keep Warm Learning Center, for instance, which provides suggestions to optimize your district heating system if you have one. And we heard, as I said, many core regions do have a district heating system in place. And of course, here may be some guiding hierarchy in first looking at energy efficiency gains within your system, then subsequently looking at renewable energy options and how best to integrate maybe also industrial and commercial facilities and their excess heat. And fourthly, looking at waste to energy solutions where they are feasible within waste reduction strategy. And last but not least, also that was today outlined, the demand and consumption will go closer together. And here the digitalization of the sector is also important. Next slide. So there are these opportunities, capacity building, but also here within, and this is my last advice to you before we go into depth, here a support facility also available here in the form of Act on Heat, another European project here brought to you. And here 120 municipalities have the opportunity to plan and optimize their district heating system. Some will have the chance to do some feasibility studies and other even to discuss some financial options. So these opportunities are there. to you, but maybe you need still a little bit of a teaser, and the next slide tells you indeed the wonderful lineup that we have here today prepared. A city that has and is dependent 50% on coal within its heating sector has launched a global competition how to solve and decarbonize that. Kaiserita, I'm very happy that you are with us. Also with us, Maria Victoria, representing a Spanish multinational infrastructure company that is compiling and demonstrating different technology options for also coal regions in transition. Then we have a state-of-the-art innovation to be presented that is linked and fostered by the national and state program in Germany as part of the coal transition. Tobias Kupsch is with us. And last but not least, also a state-owned utility operating within the Tuzla region here, providing electricity and heating based on coal, is now on the path of transition. Hannes, thank you to be here. With that wonderful lineup, I would like to say, tell you on the next slide that you're open to post any questions that you have that come and occur during the presentations, and you find them either here displayed with entering into Slido and entering the code district heating, or you just press in Swapcard at the Slido link and you can interact with us. And I hope you do. And with that, I would like to introduce the panel even more authentically, looking at their faces and now asking them to say good afternoon in their mother tongue, their name, position, and organization, and answering the question how they keep their region or Europe warm. And I may start by using this example, saying, einen wunderschönen guten Nachmittag. Mein Name ist Carsten Ropeler. I'm working for ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, and I'm keeping Europe sustainably warm by building capacity for local governments and bringing different political and technical actors together. Kaiserita.
Hei, hyvää iltapäivää ja terveisiä Helsingistä. My name is Kaisareita Koskinen and I work for the city of Helsinki. I'm keeping my city warm and making also sure that it's carbon neutral and sustainable warm, what we are providing here.
Thank you. Maria Victoria.
Hi, buenas tardes, good afternoon. My name is Maria Victoria Cambronero and I'm an energy efficiency project manager in Acciona. And well, my contribution is to try to bring innovation in the energy field. One example is the Equidistant project, which will be presented later on, and the promotion of the renewable energy sources in this fantastic world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas.
Guten Tag, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren. My name is Thomas Kupsch. I work as a scientist at the University of Applied Sciences, Zittergörlitz, in the Institute for Process Technology, Automation and Measurement Technologies in Lusatia, Saxony. With our Aquaheat concept, we can make a long-term contribution to the sustainable provision of heat based on regenerative energy, like aquatic thermal energy in Saxony and beyond. We want to contribute a building block for the structural change in the area of supply and industry.
Great, thank you to be with us. And Hannes, over to you.
Thank you. Dobar dan, dame I gospodo. Hello to everybody. My name is Hannes Kazagic. I'm head of Strategic Development Department of Power Utility of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Our department is responsible for strategic development and long-term planning, and we lead the process of energy transition of our power and heat sector and conduct research and development renewable energy projects that are actually on the track of our energy transition roadmap. I'm glad to be here with you and take part at this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you. And now let's walk through the agenda. We have two cases which are in focus at the beginning. Then we have a little bit of a discussion with these two cases, and then going further, presenting two others before we come all together and discuss together the five of us. And as I said, please use Slido and post your question. First case, and a very special one, I would like to bring our attention to Kaisereta, indeed, the city of Helsinki, here with a very interesting approach, having outlined the Helsinki Energy Challenge, asking themselves the question, what are the best solutions for our city, our citizens, to decarbonize the thermal sector with as little biomass as possible? That's a very tricky and interesting question, challenge indeed. Kaisereta, over to you. Please tell us more about it.
Thank you. And it is very interesting case. You know, I'm super excited about it, and I'm very happy I'm able to tell the story to you, because it is a super inspiring story. And to give a little bit of context, Helsinki has set a target to be carbon neutral by 2030. Previously, our target was to be carbon neutral by 2035, but during last summer we got a council election, and we got a new regime and a new mayor, and they updated the target, so took basically 5 years away from our targets. In practice, this means that we have to reduce emissions by 80% comparing to the year 1990 level. And so far, we have reduced 33% already, comparing between the years 1990 and 2020. President, we have already reduced almost half of the emission, and that's because Helsinki is growing very fast all the time. Biggest sources of direct emissions here in Helsinki are heating. Heating is actually almost 60% of the direct emissions, so it's a very big share. And that's why, you know, it's very easy to understand why we have so much interest on heating and energy efficiency, because, you know, it's very critical for our target. The traffic is the second biggest source of emission. It is around 24%, and then the electricity use is 13%. And we are one of the coolest capitals in the world, so that's also the reason why partly the reason why heating is such a big share of the emissions. Anyway, the main reason for such a high emissions part is that over 90% of buildings in Helsinki, they are connected to the district heating system, and still almost 90% of district heat is produced by burning fossil fuels. So we have 4 big power plants. 2 of them are using coal, and 2 of them are using a natural gas. And of course, you know, to achieve a target, city is working hard to speed up the energy transition of especially the heating system. And from March 2020 to March 2021, the city of Helsinki organized this competition called Helsinki Energy Challenge. And the main question was that, you know, what are the best solutions for the city and for also the citizen perspective to decarbonize the heating system? During that time, we did not have an answer to that, and therefore we decided to ask everybody to come and help us. And our main challenge question was, how can we decarbonize the heating of Helsinki using as little biomass as possible? And the main prize was set to 1 million euro. So it was that kind of, quite a big and quite a good prize. So we really wanted to get people interested and to get the best brains to be interested in to solving our challenge. And competition was basically a two-phase competition. So we started with an open application phase, and the challenge was open globally to everyone. The only requirement was that to apply, you had to apply as a team. And the team was at least 2 persons. So by that we wanted to make sure that there is more praise and more thinking that it's that no single innovators were not encouraged to participate. We welcomed all types of solutions to the competition, technical solutions as well as non-technical innovations. In this first phase, we gave facts about our current heating system. We set the evaluation criteria, and we announced the challenge question, and that's it. We really wanted to give the innovators free hands to come up with the game-changing master plans and solutions. By the end of this first application phase, we received 252 different kind of proposals. It was much more than what we expected. So it was, we were really happy about it. The teams contained more than 1,500 different innovators from 35 different countries. So it was a truly global competition. We had an evaluation phase, and then 10 finalist teams were selected to continue to the co-creation phase. And after a co-creation phase, a high-profile international jury selected the winners based on the final competition entries. And the jury decided to award 4 teams whose proposals were very different, and for example, one of them was not a technical solution at all, but it was that kind of a market mechanism, auction model, how to solve the problem. So the proposals were not only about the ways how to create heat. And at the moment, we are, still working together with the teams, the winning teams, and also the other teams who participated. We learned a lot. For example, we know that the system has to be very resilient. It has to be flexible. The best systems, best technologies to create heat at the moment, they are not the best solutions after 10 years. So we know that the technology is going to develop very fast, and whatever we are doing, we have to keep a space for new technologies to be able to implement on the system. Also, we learned that the future of the heating is electrical. Heat pumps are going to play a very big part of the system. We also need energy efficiency solutions. We need a lot of optimization, also on the use side, and also on production side. And we need the optimization of the whole system, as there are more players and more pieces and parts. It's more complicated to keep in order and to run in a very efficient way. And that to do this and to understand this better, and also to understand the role of the city better, we started the heating roadmap work. It is done, co-created with the best expert in the Finland. So we did it openly again. So we ask people to come and help us, and now we have worked together in the workshop format for last spring and this autumn. And on December, we hope that we are able to present the roadmap carbon neutral heating for Helsinki, for our city port. Actually, tomorrow morning we are going to have that kind of a public discussion about what we have drafted so far. Unfortunately, the meeting is in Finnish. Otherwise, you all are invited and to come and to participate. But basically, we were able to demonstrate that, we don't need to burn anything. We don't need to burn a biomass to keep a city warm. We have different, very, very many different kind of solutions. And the city has a very big role, because a city is an enabler, and also we are that kind of, actor who is taking different players together and really trying to make a strategy for how to combine these different parts together. So that's
great.
Very shortly.
Kaisarita, thank you. Quite interesting to learn from the coolest city, one of the world's coolest cities, and having this approach of just simply asking the question when one does not know the answer necessarily. I understood that you have provided the applicants with some information, of course, so and then the only criteria was to apply as a team, and by that you received 252 applications. That is wonderful. Let me just ask one question. Do you think this approach is feasible also to smaller cities and municipalities?
Of course, I think, and if you have this kind of challenge like we had in Helsinki, there are already teams which are put together for our competition, and I'm sure that they are interested to work together for other cities also. So there are a new coalition, and there are companies, researchers who found each other for our competition. So there are teams already available, and there are a lot of solutions available already. And we demonstrated that it is possible to do this, and the innovators are really, they want to participate. They want to make that kind of job that makes change the world and save the world, and also, if you are a very, very small municipality and you don't have the resources to do this by yourself, maybe you can do it together with somebody else. And we are also publishing all the proposals in our webpage, so you can go there and see that, if you find something, some kind of, ready-made solutions also from our applicants already.
Thank you, Kaisarita. Indeed, it's quite transparent on energychallenge.hel.fi. You can access the award winners and their concept. So please make use of them. So let's turn to the. First of all, thank you once again, Kaisarita. We will talk soon in a discussion mode further. Now switching over to Maria Victoria. Also, you and your findings can be found on the website. But before we promote them even further, maybe you can explain and introduce what is We District about and what can it bring to core regions in transition. And I think you have prepared and focus on Poland in particular. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Carsten. Yeah, and thank you for the invitation and inviting us for the Equidistant project. Well, the Equidistant project, a few words, is an innovation project funded by the European Commission under the Horizon 2020 program, and the main objective is to integrate renewable energy sources in district heating and cooling networks. Then I have a presentation because I'm going to focus, I'm going to share with all of you our experience in the frame of the Equidistant project focused on the demo site located in Poland, and how is our lessons learned from them. So in the next slide, well, I think that first it makes sense to give you some numbers about what is the current status of the district heating in Poland. Well, Poland is a really traditional district heating country. There is plenty of district heating. It's a quite, well, this kind of installation is quite old. And most of the, well, more than 40% of the households in Poland use this kind of installation as main heat source. So it's quite popular. The problem is that, as you can see in the figure on the left side, more than 70% of the fuel consumption is coal-based, which this is not good. Then, well, it's something that we should change for the sustainability, and we are on the path. Then in the next slide, we will see the general map of Poland. How is the energy efficiency of the district heating there in Poland? So you will see that there's plenty of red spots. This means that the district heating are not very efficient. Well, indeed, 85% of those systems don't have the status of efficient district heating. And another problem is that the prices are increasing. Of course, the CO2 emissions are increasing. But the problem of the cost is that there is a public pressure on keeping these heat prices low. And we know that the coal is quite cheap, although it's increasing the price. But, well, the new solutions in price are not cost competitive compared to the coal. And another challenge is that the regulated tariffs in Poland are not enough for covering all the costs. And this is also a barrier for the implementation of these sustainable solutions. On the next slide, I will present, well, not only the Poland is studying in this district, but there are other figures at Europe level, and the numbers are not very good because, as you said at the beginning, 50% of the energy consumption is well, for the heating and cooling purposes, and 70% of such energy generated comes from fossil fuels. So this is why Equidistant was born, because we would like to well, modify this number. And within the project, we want to demonstrate that it's possible to have district heating and cooling networks using heating and 100% fossil-free heating and cooling solutions. On the next slide, you will see the Equidistant Portfolio. We are developing 10 different innovative technologies, 3 different solar concentrated technologies, 1 low emissions biomass technology. I know that the biomass sometimes is a bit controversial, but we are working on reducing these emissions, the NOx emissions mainly. We are also working on a solution. It's a hybrid solution, a joint geothermal and photovoltaic system. We are developing as well 2 different innovative cooling systems that are fed from renewable. One is for producing air cool, and another one is for chill water based on absorption chiller. Another innovative solution dealing with the heat recovery from data centers, and using fuel cell for boosting the temperature that can be suitable for district heating temperatures, and also storage, innovative storage, molten salt based. And finally, everything should work optimally. So we are also developing an advanced digitalization system that contributes to this optimization of all the technologies, making work all together. Yeah, in the next slide, to explain that all our technologies will be deployed in the real demo sites in Spain, Romania, Poland, and Sweden. Are completely different, one from them. But the one in Poland, there is a little bit more definition in the next slide. What we want to do is to retrofit a current system, and we will replace the coal boiler by biomass and photovoltaic system. So in the next slide, you will see that we will try to improve this energy efficiency of the Polish district demo site by replacing this dirty source. Then just a few words, next slide, to explain that from our experience, we are facing several challenges because it's not been very easy, the demonstration in Poland, for different reasons. Some of them are that first, we need free space for these new solutions. What means that, not all the developing plans forest at the beginning this free space, so we need to change the plans, what means a lot of time for doing that, and that's not possible in the frame of this kind of project. Another challenge is that the requirements for these new solutions in the building code are more strict, so it's needed some adaptation and some changes, and this is quite challenging for small entities because this means budget, more costs, this means more effort and means time, and for small entities sometimes or more probably it's not affordable for them. I mentioned before there is a public pressure on keeping the heating costs low. And we know that the coal is cheaper, and this is something that we need to have clear. But of course, there are some mechanisms for improving this number, and of course, we need financial support. If we move to the next slide, another challenge is that there are network operators that are reluctant towards these innovative solutions because this means that complexity and the maintenance and also to the operation becomes more complex, and this is why some network operators are a bit feel some fear about the change. And finally, one more is that these smaller networks, typical situation is that only provides heat for the space heating, and then in summer there is not the use is not optimized, and then this is difficult for installations such as cogeneration or solar-based solutions, because means that the demand side needs to support as well, and this makes somehow difficult to implement these new solutions in the district in current district heating in Poland. Next slide, please. We'll see that I want also to show positive message and not only the negative. So let's forget for a moment the negative, because there are also positive message from our side, from Equidistant side, because we are finding a very a good approval from the public. So the local communities and even the local governments are happy with this sustainable energy transition procedure. Again, the problem is the cost, but at least we are feeling that the citizens are happy to change. In fact, there are more investment in this district heating networks. And one of the main reasons is that because there are local programs for promoting this kind of installations and for facilitating this kind of investment, such as the one that is shown in the slide that is unpronounceable for me because it's in Polish. but there is another national program. The second one is, well, it comes from the European Investment Bank. So, well, it's good to know that there are some mechanisms for, well, promoting this change, sustainable change. Also, in the next slide, we see that there are some upcoming changes that are coming, are pretty soon, and new regulations for facilitating the investment. Also, there is a national strategy that should be implemented by the end of this year, which is also promoting the energy efficiency and the change towards these more sustainable systems. And then there is also additional funding from Europe, like the Modernization Fund, for this retrofitting of these old district heating networks in Poland. I finalize my presentation then with the next slide showing the main data of Equidistant project. You will see, you cannot see? Yeah, you will see in the next slide, please. If you're curious about the project, you can visit the webpage, and you can follow us on the social media. And you are more than welcome to visit us and ask any question you may have and clarify any doubt. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria Victoria, for outlining here 10 technology options that are now in focus in 4 different climate zones across Europe, but in particular outlining here the case in Poland and the ups and downs and where we are. And that's why we're here discussing. And maybe my first question before we come to further discussion, and I again would like to remind here listeners to post their questions via Slido so we can respond to your interests and your needs. So one question to you, first of all, Maria. You have hinted that renewables are currently not competitive. So, and still your technologies that you're demonstrating are quite diverse. So what is your advice? How can a region, a city, a public utility in Poland, but also elsewhere, now decide about their technological mix that is likely to be very feasible in the mid and long run, but in the short run, due to the carbon price or to different other framework conditions, is still not yet economically viable. What is your recommendation in this tricky situation?
Well, you said very, you're completely right. If we focus only on the short term, they are not competitive because we need, and these solutions needs a clear investment and amount of investment. But it's true that the coal price is increasing while the renewable energy sources are decreasing because we are improving and the technology is improving very quickly. And also not only the first investment, but also the cost for the operating of the system is reducing with the renewable energy sources because we are improving the energy efficiency and we are making easier the use of these renewable energy sources. So this should be seen not at the short term, that is for 1 month, but the benefits and the results will come later on. So it's important that when we are talking about sustainability, when we are talking about renewable energy sources, we need to open the mind and think in the future and not in the next future. It's really important. And this is for the society in general and the local governments in particular, because sometimes we want to see the changes very soon, and that's not possible. And when we are talking about the cost, it's quite clear.
Yeah, maybe I'd like to ask Kaiserete also to come in here. You as head of unit striving for more climate ambition, and indeed you now have it. The politicians have decided you must be 5 years quicker reaching climate neutrality. Nevertheless, the framework conditions might still be the same in Finland, so also challenging. How for district heating investments that have a long time payback time, but what is your answer to the question of how can you overcome potentially currently economically unfeasible situations towards more renewable energies already planned for next year to be injected in the system?
Yeah, I think that the emission trading system is really kicking in, and I think that the existing system, so burning fossil fuels, is the worst situation. So it is basically that kind of as in Finnish we called ajolähtö. So you really have to move. You don't have the option to stay anymore, and it's like helping us, of course, because at the moment it's not profitable to burn fossil fuels anymore. So it is. I don't know if I answer your question, but it's really like that.
So
you really have to. It's not always that what you are looking to replace, but it's also that you cannot stay there where you are anymore.
Okay, and in your situation, I understand it is already not economically so feasible to use and stay with coal. So that is different in Poland yet. But then maybe, Maria Victoria, from your experience, also from what recommendation do you have now, also looking at other cases which you have referred to in Romania, for instance, or elsewhere? How can you ensure that the change within the system, within the thermal system, is ongoing without necessarily interrupting the supply?
Well, planning is so important in this case. So we need to plan in advance when to do it, because, well, depending on the scenario, when we are talking about the typical district heating in Poland or even in Romania, where only the heating season is covered by the district heating, of course, we are going to work in the summer period where when the energy needs are not so important. Another recommendation is that the local communities and the end users keep them always informed, okay, because it's important that they have the information at first hand, and not suddenly the energy is not, they are not receiving energy, and well, it's not very good for the promotion of this kind of installation. And of course, if there is a scenario where the energy supply is really critical, just we can think about backup systems in the transition, okay? But just in the case that is really necessary and it's not possible to stop in any moment the energy supply. So my answer is planning.
Very good, and well in advance. That was the clear message. And indeed, also, Kaisereda, you referred to a roadmap, and you also referred to co-creation. And here, my question in relation to our debate here in the coal transition discussion, that we want to leave no one behind, but many facilities, many actors are still quite dependent on fossil fuels, on coal in particular. So is within your roadmap and within your ambition, how have you engaged the coal utility or coal power plant you referred to? How are you engaging these actors, and what role do they have within the future within your energy system?
Yeah, it is partly it's quite easy because city of Helsinki is fully owning the energy company, so it is basically the city's owned company. But of course, I think that also the energy company understand that they have their own goals and they also want to solve the problem. So they have a motivation already there. So everybody is going on the same direction. and that of course makes it easier. But of course the situation at the moment is not very easy, because everything is changing so fast, and there are better technologies coming, and it's like that kind of a big storm ongoing, and we have very little visibility, so we have to make a very big decisions, very big investment decision with a very short vision. So we don't know what is going to happen, and all the parts are moving, and that's makes it difficult. And that's why we wanted everybody to come to help us, and that's why we had that kind of a round table discussion with the best energy professors in Finland, and the best experts, and then because I think nobody knows what is going to happen, but when there are 20 or 30 people discussing and putting their best guesses on the same table, I think that it's much more than what we can do alone. And we are trying to focus on one of our professor was saying that we should focus on the no regret policies, and that's what we are trying to do first. We are going to make the moves which we know for sure that they are not going to be a mistake. So we are focusing on the no regret policies, and by that we are playing time a little bit, that that when the market is developing very fast, we have more time.
Thank you. Then, Maria Victoria, for maybe also in your project and in the discussions with your stakeholders within the different countries, here, was there a co-creation phase or similar? What is the pathway of collaboration that you would recommend for people to undertake in order to sit down and plan the future?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, it depends on the country, because in Equidistant we are working. Well, it's a quite big consortium, comprises 22 partners from 9 different countries in Europe, and each country is so different. So the co-creation among countries is, well, I would say that's completely, well, could be real, but at the moment it's not possible. We need to focus its country. In its country, I mean, I can explain, for instance, what is happening in Spain, which is my country. In Spain, this kind of installation is really new. And I have to say that in the regulations and the local regulations, it starts to you can start to read the name of district heating. This is our case. If you move to Denmark, Denmark is the district heating country, is for excellence. So it's so the difference among the countries are so different, that are so big that I cannot send a general message for all European countries. So it depends so much on the country.
Okay, thank you very much. Then maybe my last question for this round, Kaiserita, you in the co-creation phase, as far as I'm informed, you several technical representatives, heads of unit and so on, of the city of Helsinki participated then in analyzing the 10 selected proposals. Why was that the case, and how could you actually make sure that through this process that the solutions offered can be best suited to your needs of the city?
Yeah, the purpose of the co-creation phase was to coach the teams and really to make the proposals better. And actually, I have been evaluating quite many architectural competitions, and we have that kind of system in those competitions, so that you have the first sketch, and then you are giving them advices for further develop their proposals. And that was exactly the phase, the boot camp phase purpose, that we wanted to give them that kind of guidances and hints and the ideas, and really help them to adjust the proposals to fit better for the proposals and for the context of Helsinki. And that's why we needed the head of units to participate and to answer and tell them that, okay, you know, in your idea you are needing this much space in the center of city, and actually we don't have that kind of space there available, so you should change your proposal from that perspective. And it was a very good, and it was also, you know, good for the teams, but it was also a good for the city people, because, you know, by participating on this competition and also by participating on this roadmap work, you know, we are also increasing ownership of this energy thing, because, you know, in past the ownership of the energy and the heating system, it was, you know, outsourced to the energy company. So the city officials, they didn't, you know, have, they thought that it's not their business and they don't understand enough. And, you know, by taking them on the table and discussing and really, you know, putting them, you know, to discuss with the energy people, you know, they have started to realize, okay, we have to take this seriously, and this is our, you know, job, and we have to, as a city, we have to be on the driver's seat. And this is not going to happen without us. And so it has been, you know, also important from that perspective.
Great to hear. And indeed, when a consultant is visiting you as a city, we heard the Bulgarian mayor yesterday. Indeed, Kazeda, what you had just said, ownership of the process and having a relation to what is proposed, let it be innovative or let it be conventional, that needs to be analyzed and actually assessed, also based on the local conditions here. So thank you both for having shared so far your knowledge, your experience within the different frameworks. I would now like to hand over to Tobias Kupsch, as he has also a state-of-the-art innovation brought with him in the context of the cold transition, and looking at in particular its district heating system. Over to you, Tobias. Thomas, you are muted.
Thank you, Mr. Rothbeller. Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the Just Transition platform meeting, Coal Regions in Transition, and the Saxony State Ministry for Energy, Climate Protection, Environment and Agriculture for opportunity to present our project Aquaheat as a building block for the transformation of heat generation in the region of Lusatia affected by structural change. Next slide, please. First, on the first slide, I would like to introduce you to our project team of the currently approved and the future project phases. In the current phase, the Institute of Air Handling and Refrigeration Dresden, called ILK, is taking over the project management. Partners are the Brandenburg University of Technology Cottbus and my institution. The municipal heat supplier Stadtwerke Zittau GmbH and the district of Görlitz support us as associated project partners. In the approved follow-up project, we are supported by Fraunhofer Institute for Energy Infrastructures and Geothermal Energy. Furthermore, the municipal heat supplier Stadtwerke Weißwasser and die Veolia GmbH will support the project as associated partners. The next slide, please. Now I will say something about the role of water in energy technology sector coupling in Lusatia today and tomorrow. The energy generation based on water steam cycles has a long tradition in Lusatia. This offers the opportunity to develop new technologies for energy provisions on the base of such cycles, and to use the existing know-how in the field of energy production as well as the production of components in the region. The central goal is successfully accompany the the resource conserving and suitable provisions of energy and transformation of the existing value chains in the region. The Aquaheat system offers an efficient possibility of sector coupling by using environmental heat based on water bodies as a heat source. The combination of environmental heat from rivers or lakes and renewable electricity provides the basis of efficient heating and cooling from one single process. From 1 kilowatt hour of electricity and the heat extracted from the body of water, 4 kilowatt hours of heat and 3 kilowatt hours of cold can be produced simultaneously. This corresponds to an annual performance factor of 7. In contrast to conventional heat pump processes, the Aquaheat technology not only uses the sensible portion of the water heat. Due the phase transition between liquid and the solid phase, the ice, the latent portion can also be used. The next slide, please. For this purpose, I would first like to explain the functional principle of the Aquaheat process to you. At the sea level of 0 meters, water boils at nearly 100 degrees Celsius. At an altitude of about 8,850 meters, it boils at about 70 degrees Celsius. At a theoretical high of about 20,500 meters, water boils at 0 degrees Celsius and also frozen to ice. The Aquaheat system uses this effect to provide heat efficiently. By means of an electric-driven compressor, the river water is evaporated under vacuum condition and then condensed. The heat released during the condensation is raised to the required temperature level of decentralized and centralized heat supply in a downstream heat pump process. The ice could be used for cooling, perhaps. The next slide, please. On this slide, you can see the overall concept for year-round heat supply on the base of water thermal energy. On the left side, you see the heat source. The extracted water is evaporated under vacuum condition and then condensed in the liquid ice generator. The heat releases during the condensation is transferred to a downstream heat pump process and raised to the temperature level required in the district heating network. The generated heat can be used directly or stored in a heat accumulator. The ice water produced in the vacuum liquid ice generator can be stored in a cold reservoir or returned to the body of water. The next slide, please. On this slide, you can see our vision of Lusatia. Water serves as a working tool in a networked energy system of the future. The Aquaheat concept enables the coupling of the electricity, heating and cooling sectors. The heat extracted from the body of water in combination with renewable electricity can enable demand-based heating and cooling in future energy systems of Lusatia. In addition to the provision of heating and cooling, additional effects can be used in the tourism sector. For example, by using this resulting ice as technical snow for some tourism activities. The next slide, please. On this slide, I will show you some advantages for water as a refrigerant. Water is a natural, non-toxic and non-flammable and cheap refrigerant. A contamination of water bodies like in heat pump processes will not be possible with this Aquaheat system. It's possible to design a monovalent system, heat source with constant temperatures for year-round utilization of nearly all water bodies. You have low volume flows for the water withdrawal and the recirculation to the water in the river or in the lake. There are low space requirements in comparison to other sustainable heat sources. Because of the use of water, there's no fouling inside the heat exchangers, and there's a possibility of a reduction of costs for the heat source exploration by industrial planned and modular design of the overall system. It's also possible to integrate this in an energy supply system, e.g. perhaps for heating and cooling or the power to heat and cold technologies. The next slide, please. On this side, I would like to present the current project status and give you an outlook on the future activities on the topic of Aquaheat in relation to the restructuring of heat supply at the creation and maintenance of value change in Lusatia. In the current project, technology proof is being provided for heat recovering from the water of bodies. In the next project phases, the installation and commissioning of the overall concept, including the heat pump cascade, will take place at 2 locations, at Stadtwerke Zittau and Stadtwerke Weißwasser, municipal heat suppliers of those cities. At the site of Zittau, we will use river water to generate heat at a temperature level of nearly 80 to 90 degrees and feed into the municipal district heating network. And at the site of Weißwasser, lake water is used to be and provide a low temperature level of about 50 to 60 degrees Celsius for decentralized heat provision. Within the planned third project phase, the scientific monitoring of the seasonal measurement of the overall system at both locations will take place. The optimization of the overall system and economic usability play a central role there. Parallel to the activities presented, a scale-up of the overall system is planned for the creation and maintenance of the regional value chains. Spin-offs in the area of the conception of these and systems and their production are a fundamental building block. The regional bundling of competences in the field of energy technology and the production of energy technology components can contribute to the long-term restructuring of Lusatia. The next slide, please. On this slide, you can see the project phases shown and further activities in the area of the production of components for the overall Aquaheat system in the field of manufacturing technologies, cooperating with regional component manufacturers is ongoing. These manufacturers are to be developed in long term to meet the current requirements of a restructured energy supply and associated with new types of components. The application of Aquaheat technologies offers regional suppliers the opportunity to guarantee the future heat supply based on renewable energy and to establish themselves as an attractive employer in the long term. The same applies to the branches of production that currently manufactured components of conventional power plant technologies. Thanks to the focus on new types of components, these can exist on the market for the long term and successfully carry out the necessary restructuring. The use of development of renaturated post-mining landscape offers, in addition to the safe and resource-saving heat supply by means of lake thermal energy, a variety of areas of application, for example, tourist development. This means that other sectors can also benefit from the restructuring of these regions and make the region a livable and work-safe area. The next slide, please. With this, I would like to end my presentation on the Aquaheat system and its application in a region affected by structural change, the Lusatia region of Saxony. Thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for outlining, presenting here the wonderful solution based on water. The cheapest non-flammable solution here for quite interesting mix and part of an integrated energy system that is currently also existing here in Lusatia region. So I have learned that you can boil and produce ice at the same time, nevertheless by 28,000 meter height. But so interesting innovation. I'm sure this concept would also have made it very close in the Helsinki Energy Challenge. But before we discuss and before I would like to encourage you once again, dear audience, dear listeners, please type in your questions within the slide link you have. You can find on the swap card. I would now like to hand over to our last speaker, Hannes. You are looking at the Tuzla coal region dependent on lignite, which is also in a fast pace, looking at roadmaps of how to decarbonize your district heating systems. Over to you and explain us further what you do. Thanks.
Thank you, Carsten, for these introductory words. Hello again to everybody, and thanks again for inviting me to be a part of this very interesting event. I have already learned a lot from previous presentations, so it's a pleasure to be here. So yes, I will speak briefly about transition of Tuzla district heating system within the framework of just transition of Tuzla coal region, the process that is ongoing. The next slide, please. Just briefly about the Tuzla city. It is the third largest city in Bosnia and Herzegovina, located in the northeast part of the country. It has approximately 170,000 inhabitants, and it is actually in the middle of the largest coal region in Bosnia and Herzegovina, called Tuzla coal region. Next slide, please. So this region is very rich with the coal, but the transition is already started to renewable energy sources also in this region. So some important things to know about that process. All coal mines in Tuzla region are owned by the state power utility Elektroprivreda, the company which I come from. All coal mines deliver the coal to the central position cogeneration heat and power plant Tuzla, which is also owned and operated by our company. All these companies, our power utility as well as coal mines, are involved in initiative for just coal transition of Western Balkans and Ukraine, and the energy transition which has already started of our power utility, including coal mines, are based on national action plans in Bosnia and Herzegovina, particularly renewable energy action plans, energy efficiency action plans, but also energy and climate plan until 2030, and on the base of elaboration of coal phase out and plan in this regard of our utility. The next slide, please. So on the track of the transition, we already decommissioned 2 units in Tuzla power plant, and we plan to decommission another 2 units until the end of 2023. And in the long term, we plan to operate one CHP Tuzla unit on coal until 2040, or alternatively to 2045, while one unit, CHP unit in Tuzla, will be converted into biomass co-firing multi-fuel operation mode unit. Along this transition of power units in Tuzla power plant, we have also developed photovoltaic power stations on former coal mine area. First one on Kreka, 45 megawatts installed solar power plant, and on former ash landfill, 56 megawatts of power installed. Also, we have started with short rotation copies and other bioenergy crops plantations on our coal mines, where we have planned to use until 1,000 hectares of the area of former coal mines in order to produce sustainable biomass that is going to be used for biomass co-firing in our CHP Tuzla to reduce CO2 emissions. The next slide, please. This is some photos of first established test plantations of energy crops. That is showed rotation copies willow, established in the middle of this year in cooperation with E3 international companies, and we have now planned for the next year to extend this area for new 30 hectares of the plantations. The next one. Coming to the district heating system in Tuzla region, our CHP Tuzla at the moment deliver the heat for 2 district heating systems in this region, to Tuzla city and to Lukavac city, and there is also a live plan to supply the heat for Živinice city near Tuzla city. The next slide, please. So heat is supplied from CHP plant to distribution utility, which is owned by Tuzla city. We are now talk about city of Tuzla district heating system, that is the largest one in this region, and then distribution utility supply the heat to the end users. The next slide. We have here some basic figures of this district heating system. It is one of the largest and the modernest one in this part of the Europe, in this Southeast Europe. It is 220 megawatts of thermal energy installed. Over 80% of the consumers or inhabitants are supplied by the district heating system. We have 170 kilometers of distribution network and 1,030 substations within this system. The next one. What is also important to be emphasized here, that this district heating system already passed through the first phase of upgrading measures. It was started 10 years ago when energy efficiency measures implemented, and also first phase of digitalization project has been implemented. Recently, starting from 2018, through the Upgrade District Heating Horizon project, we started with the introduction of the renewable energy sources into this district heating system, with a plan to extend that to the 20% until 2025. The next one. So this is the first module of renewable energy sources that are going to be implemented in this system. It is solar thermal collectors. We developed 3 projects, 2 locations within the city, and the third location is within our CHP plant Tuzla. The next one. The second module is use of biofuels in biomass co-firing regime in CHP plant, where we, through the Horizon BioFit project 2020, developed the project of 50% of biomass co-firing on Unit 6. This Unit 6 is at the moment being converted into a cogeneration plant for long-term delivery of the heat from that unit to the district heating systems. And also we at the moment preparing the biomass trial run with 50% of biomass co-firing rate at that unit. And the next slide, please. And the third model of renewable energy sources is geothermal energy. What is on the slide is a project developed together with the German AGFW, implementation of airborne deep geothermal technology that is going to use the one location on the former coal mine area for the installation of demonstration project. The next one. And summarizing all these, our targets for transition of thermal sector, as I said before, until 2025, we plan to have a 20% of renewable energy in this district heating system. Until 2030, 40% coming from these different renewable energy technologies. And finally, until 2050, near 100% of renewable sources with diversified sources of energy coming from renewable sources. So that's it from me for now.
Thank you, Hannes, for running and for keeping the time. Maybe before we come all together, let's quickly recap a little bit on what has been said. And Thomas, so first of all, Thomas, you and just congratulations again. Your project was one of the 3 that got financed by the Saxony in relation to the changing structure within core regions in transition. Maybe, and we have heard there are many funds available also now to deploy innovative or changing technologies within the thermal sector. What is your recommendation towards those core regions that are listening here? Where is innovation needed from your perspective?
My opinion therefore is the restructuring of the heating sector towards an overall system based on renewable energies can only be achieved through an efficient mix of technologies. The use of renewable energies and environmental heat from bodies of water offers great applications for this potential, especially due to post-mining landscapes. Therefore, to use the mines as reservoirs of water for heat districts. An important building block for successfully shaping structural change is sector coupling and development of new types of heat generation systems for demand-oriented and resource-saving heat, and also the storage of renewable energies. Perhaps the electricity is produced and then transformed to another sector. Is a big building block to change these regions and bring them out to renewable energy regions.
Thank you, Thomas. Then maybe the mix which you just referred to, the mix of supply was also demonstrated, I think, by Hannes. You outlining not only in the electricity production, but also now in the thermal supply, that here a mix of technology is what you are striving at. Maybe also we have seen that you had in Tuzla also a different constellation. I mean, you as utility, you own you take care of the production, and actually the grid, if I understood, is owned by Tuzla City. And here my question in this regard, Tuzla is part of the Covenant of Mayors, has just renewed its commitment, so at least 40% CO2 reductions by 2030. What is the role of cities like Tuzla to push you as utility to be more ambitious and supply you with renewable heating?
Yes, you are right, Karsten. We have there in Tuzla many stakeholders involved, and I dare say that they are equally important for the success of the thermal sector transition of Tuzla region. City of Tuzla, as one of the stakeholders involved into Tuzla co-region transition process, are actually very active in, as you said, pushing us in the direction of energy transition. So all initiatives of City of Tuzla given so far, or came from them so far, were fruitful and significant for decarbonization of thermal supply in Tuzla region. For exemplification, they gave subsidies for the installation of heat pumps in the households in Tuzla city. They also they are giving the subsidies for integration of new buildings and new households into existing district heating system, or they have a new initiative for use of energy from waste in the close or in the future. So any local initiative is very important to run and accelerate heat transition in any co-region. So Covenant of Mayor as well, I can say.
Thank you. And I would suggest that we all come together and continue to discuss the last minutes all together. So here the role of the city is again highlighted, and now also not only being Kaiserete, you referred to Helsinki being the owner of the utility, now also owner of the grid. The city, Kaiserete, do you understand that as setting the framework concerning the ambition, but then also as a platform to bring the different actors together? How best are you organizing that without losing so much time?
Yeah, it is a very tricky question, and we learned that from our roadmap work. So that the district heating network could be a platform for many things, but changing it to that direction, it's not so easy in practice. So, but of course, it's not so much a carbon neutrality asset, but it's more asset for progressing and enabling other things. But it is an interesting option, but I think that it is not the silver bullet which is going to solve everything.
Okay, thank you very much. Then maybe Thomas, you said and referred to also utilities, vice versa, Zittau, and how do you see their role, and how supportive or adaptive are they now if you come as university with your solution, which is potentially quite innovative for them? You're muted.
Sorry, again. In addition to the readiness to transform municipal heat suppliers need planning security in order to establish new types of heating concepts on a renewable basis, I think. In addition to the feasibility of the transition from fossil to renewable heat supply, can be proven through founding instruments and subsequently transfers into practice. An important building block for successful sector coupling between heat and electricity for these municipal heat suppliers is the reduction of grid utilization fees in order to convert surplus electricity into cost-efficient and climate neutral heat, and so as to be able to operate the use of innovative and electricity-based concept profitably.
Thank you, Thomas. Maria Victoria, you also worked with many municipalities and utilities. So in that sense, we also here, you might be experienced in terms of they are challenged by innovation. You refer to the 10 technologies that you're bringing them. How do you see them most receptive towards these technologies? How can we professionalize our utilities to take them up as fast as possible?
I think the heat suppliers have to get the chance to transform their heat supply, and therefore these renewable and innovative technologies have to support it also by the ministries, and the main problem, I think, is the fees for consumption of electricity to these systems. We should perform heat by using renewable electricity, but there are not so low fees to get this electricity, and so it's not so easy to make efficient heat supply with a moderate price, I would think.
Thank you very much. And maybe Maria Victoria would like to complement.
Well, no, it's exactly what my colleague says. So we need to complement because it's not cost competitive right now. We need to be supported by the public entities or even the private investors right now.
Okay, thank you. Hannes, there is a question concerning the investments and how you are organizing now the investments for implementing your overall project. What type of investment are you bringing to the table here?
Yeah, actually, in our long-term planning, we have an investment plan that following this our energy transition plan. And it is all that process of planning, as Maria Victoria said, planning is very important. This may be key, actually, element of the energy transition is timely and long-term planning of all the process and activities. And of course, investment plan is something that is stick together with the plan of transformation of technology mix, both for the power and heat sector. So we actually do it on the base of asset management methodology, where we provide, assess and calculate, estimate all economic indicators in function of environmental and climate indicators to be achieved for 2030 or 2050. So we have a middle-term planning until 2030 and a long-term planning until 2050, where we set targets of the transition and decarbonization, and of course investment plans and the money that we need to secure for all the projects that are on our roadmap is from different sources, and it is a very complex actually document and plan of investments.
Thank you. We have 120 seconds left to finalize the session. I would like, often it's very interesting to hear what others have listened and taken up from other participants. So I would like to do a quick to the table and asking each one of you, what have you learned from the session from others, but also reflecting your own background. Your answer shall not be more than 30 seconds. First, Kaisereta, what do you take from the session?
Yeah, that's a very tricky question, but I would say that I would like to take the importance of working together and joining hands within our countries, within our city, but also to Europe. So working together.
Thank you very much, Maria Victoria.
Yeah, well, as my colleague says, we are all aligned, so it seems that the message is positive, and what I'm seeing is that there is a very high knowledge, technical knowledge in the field, so that's important. Yes, we need some economic, financial support.
Thank you. Thomas.
I learned many interesting things about how other countries try to restructure the coal mining regions, especially what Kaiser said, what is done there was very important for me, but also the introduction how these coal-fired regions like Bosnia-Herzegovina or Poland take chance to renew the heat supply on a wide field. Yeah, that's the necessary way to improve the systems and to make it livable in the future, I think.
Thank you. Hannes.
Yes, I can say that I have learned a lot from these presentations today. I can confirm what Thomas already said, that research and innovation in the heat sector is also most needed, particularly for these our coal regions. And as also Maria Victoria said, planning, I would extend actually the term planning to the strategic planning, because it devoted to the long-term view. Strategic planning of the heat transition as for the power transition for all involved stakeholders is a key. It is a key step for the successful implementation of the transition, and I recommend actually to all stakeholders in coal regions, from coal communities, local communities, cities, governments, and power utilities, to develop their own strategic energy transition plans, to be part of some comprehensive roadmap for heat transition for coal regions.
Thank you very much. My message: different plans are pathways are possible. You have just showed that. So challenge your innovators. Kaiserita, thank you very much for sharing that message. Maybe Maria Victoria, we can learn a lot looking at Redistrict. More than 10 technologies are there, so let's use them. Thomas, water as a mean to work within district heating system of the future. That was your clear message. And Hannes, also here, using European projects as part to optimize district heating systems. So thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you also to the listeners. Yeah, stay tuned with other conversations, and our talk will continue, I'm sure, in the future, but happy to have contributed today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.